Dude, I found a dildo!
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Jim here. Once again, thank you so much for joining me as always. And today we're going to be taking a quick overview of 3 special brand new offerings from Winterblade Knife Company. Now, for those of you that have not seen my previous Winterblade videos, Winterblade is Brian Winters, who a lot of us consider to be kind of a wizard or magician in the knife world, because he's not just making really cool knives, but he's incorporating things into knife construction that we've never seen before by way of experimentation. So his claim to fame is adding magnets to knives and creating both opening mechanisms and even lock mechanisms that we've never seen in knives before. Now, his first major success was this one right here, which is called the Factor. Now, if you haven't seen my Factor videos, of which there are several, I would highly suggest you go take a look, because these knives completely changed the way we look at evolution in the knife industry. Now, I get a chance to show you 3 that are upcoming. Now, I want to be very clear. Each of these individually will be getting a fully detailed review, and that's not what this is here today. What I'm going to do today is just quickly show them to you, give you a basic idea of what they are and why they're special and different from his previous offerings. And then soon you'll get an individual, fully detailed review with all of the specs, all of the details, as well as my thoughts, positive and negative, on each individual one, and see how they really flesh out as compared to what he's made previous. Because a couple of these really are going to be continuations of an existing line, just in a wildly different format, or a completely different knife that still has a little bit of its roots in a previous version, such as, what was that? Oh, that was an automatic. This is going to be very similar to a previous knife that came out before, but taking it in a completely different direction, because he has done an assisted opener in the past called the Mirage, but this is not an assisted opener. As you see, I'm holding this vertically. That is a true automatic, and it fires all the way. So it uses the same basic principles that the Mirage did, and it takes it significantly further into a fully powered side opening automatic. So let's take a quick look at these 3 down here in a desktop review, get some photography in there as well, and let's talk about each one and what makes them special.
Who got the magnets up in here? Winterblade got the magnets that are top tier. That rare earth shit, whose strength I admit is more that shit insane than a girl with hairy armpits. Magnets up in your ass, but Winterblade does it with class. This black beauty brings the sass. When they become available, you better not pass with your goofy ass. Magnetic automatic, making me feel frank and erratic. I know it sounds like I'm being dramatic, but it's so fucking nice, I can't help but be a stack in all black. This shit is monochromatic. This thing so crazy, making me psychosomatic. Brian Winters is the doctor, the wizard, the king of creativity. Very few can match his integrity, his ingenuity, and his love of whimsy. Whimsy, did I just say whimsy? In a rap song that doesn't sound gangsta, whatever. Whimsy, bitch.
So there is the date to remember. October 23rd, 2024. Make sure that no matter what's going on in your life, you have internet access to get to winterbladeco.com. And here's a reason why I stress in all of my Winterblade videos that it's called Winterblade, not Winterblades, because you want to make sure you're going to the right website, winterbladeco.com. All right. So let's talk about these very quickly. and see what's going on here. So we'll get this first one open. The basic packaging is you're going to receive your knife in a zippered nylon case. The 8 is going to be a little bit different than the other two. You're going to receive this Factor 8 lock tube. Lock lube. Did I say tube? Yeah, I think I did. Factor 8 lock lube. And please reference the video that's going to be on the paperwork. You will not get that lubrication with the other two knives. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. All right. So what is the Factor 8? The Factor 8 is exactly what you heard me asking for when the Factor B3 came out. I said, oh my God, please, Brian, make a larger version of this knife because the Factor is so damn incredible, and I really, really do like the size. But I think that because, actually this even goes back to the Factor B1, the very first one, I said as great as this is, because of the way this blade is made, the blade is ground, how thin it is, it's essentially a utility knife. Now, obviously, this one is a prettied up utility knife, but utility knife nonetheless. So I think a lot of people would actually use these instead of just collecting them and having them sit in a safe. So it would be awesome if there was a larger version. And that's exactly what you've got here. This is a Factor that's larger. That's really it. A lot of similarities. There's going to be some minor differences, but nothing major. It's the same basic concept, and then he has taken and improved upon things like the flip bar. No longer comes out, held in place by magnets. You cannot pull it out. It extends a little bit further. I think it's a little bit further. Yeah, a little bit further when it's kicking the blade. And that's how you're accessing the flipper functionality. Now, of course, you can flick it, you can slow roll it, you can thumb flick it if you want. Now, you've got a lot more weight to this blade than you did on this one. So this one's going to be like any typical crossbar lock knife where you need to get the timing just right so that this will close all the way and not bounce. And you'll notice a zillion times when I'm doing this, I'm going to end up doing blade bounce because I don't have the timing quite right for every single deployment because these just arrived. Do I like it as much as the original Factor? Since I was one of you who begged for a larger version, does it satisfy me? In the handleability and the utility of it, yes. That's a big ass blade that still comes down ridiculously thin. And I've got a lot more that I can work with here. However, I do still like the, I don't want to say concealability because they're all just sitting in your pocket. They're all concealable. I do like the compactness of the original sizes, of course. There is no reason that I look at this and go, that's replacing this. These are going to be, they're not going to compete for pocket time. The days that I want to carry this, I'm not going to want to carry this. The days that I want to carry this, I'm not going to want to carry this. I'm going to want that bigger, heavier, thicker knife, or I'm going to want that smaller, lighter, more compact knife. You've got a slightly different look to the the flip bar. You got a slightly different feel to the lock itself. The M-Lock does everything that the original M-Lock did. It just feels a little bit different because this one sits just a little bit proud of the frame, and this one, it's almost completely flush with the frame. So I kind of feel like I'm having to go down into this valley just a little bit. Now you see, it's still magnets. I think you can hear it too. You've also got a thicker, bigger, more prominent backspacer that actually, is it thicker? No, it's, I mean, maybe by a tenth, maybe just because of the blade stock thickness, possibly. But, oh man, I can't really tell. But it's got that gear-shaped jimping on there. It's definitely got a different look and feel. Because again, your backspacer on this is really your flip bar. This is a separate little quarter-length backspacer that's not connected to the flip bar. So yeah, that's quite a bit different. Pocket clip is essentially the same. There's not really much of a difference between them, if there is at all, except for the size. Maybe is the size the same? Yeah, it looks like the size is pretty much the same. Different materials on this one. The pivot is not as ornate, but I think that was probably done to keep this from being priced significantly crazy higher. All right, so there's your comparison. This, again, is the Factor 8, the large-sized Factor. Oh, and it's so cool. I'm so happy that exists now. Now, if it wasn't apparent, the reason why it's called the Factor 8 is because it's just over 8 inches long. Overall, it's 8.4 inches. You got a 3.5-inch blade length on there, so it's going to be a significant difference. This is, I mean, it's not night and day, but it's also really not close. You are going to absolutely notice a difference if you have an original. And if you've ever wanted a slightly larger one, you're absolutely going to want to get this. And by the way, the magnet strength on this lock is awesome, just like the original. And speaking of magnets, Brian says that the quad magnet system on this detent is the strongest he's ever done. So you're going to feel a difference when you go to flick that and when you go to flick this. Why? Because this is a thicker, heavier blade. It needed to have a stronger detent. Now again, it's still never going to feel like a mechanical detent, like having a detent ball that's pressed into a hole. But you've got 4 crazy-ass strong magnets in here that are going to act as your detent. And this flipper bar, or flip lever, is definitely snappier. The one thing I'm going to miss is on this one, I can start up here like I've got a regular flipper tab and just kind of slide my finger back and it naturally drops into place and opens that. And I can't quite do that here. I'm still forcefully pushing straight in. So anyway, that's my complete thoughts on the 8. Where do we go from here? We're going to go into the Veyron, also dropping on October 23rd, 2024. This is a cool one, man. What makes the Veyron so cool and so different is the inclusion of what Brian is calling the J-Lock. So you have his original stealth lock, which is a crossbar lock, right? But for people like me, I can't stand crossbar locks. I just don't like them. He has this placed in a position where I'm able to use it. I can flick my blade, and my finger doesn't stop the blade from opening. So yay, finally a crossbar lock that I don't hate. I don't have to use the crossbar lock like they're intended to be used because of this right up here. That will disengage the lock for me, making this a wild departure from your standard crossbar lock, axis lock, whatever you want to call it. You've got this little button right back here. By the way, that'll also release pressure on the lock so you can swing it out as well. And that may end up being your preferred method on opening the knife. Now these are going to have 20 CV blades. Or a Vanax blade. That's kind of a big deal, right? Yeah. Vanax is awesome. You're going to have options in titanium or in G10. Now, normally, I'd be all about the titanium, but I'm going to tell you something right now. I like this in the G10 because this has a substantial weight to it already. And if this were in all titanium, I think it might be heavier than I would want to carry on a daily basis. This is a full 8-inch overall knife. It's not tiny. Your blade is 3 1/4 inches. This is 5 ounces in G10, and Brian says in full titanium, it's going to be 6.1 ounces. So yeah, that's not a joke. That is nothing to be trifled with. And I'd prefer not to be trifling. So yeah, I really like the G10. Also, how cool is the white and the black, that Stormtrooper look that everybody loves to go for? Now, when you look at this, you look at where the blade is, you look at where the pivot is, and you're thinking, that's going to be really weird. It's not going to open very easily. Oh, no. It does. It overcomes that lock and just snaps open. And you don't feel, if you're slow rolling it, you don't feel like you're having to overextend your thumb at all. It's super simple, super easy. The guy's just a flat out genius. I love the slots that are cut into the G10 there. It gives us an even more futuristic look than it was already designed to be. So that, my friends, is the Veyron. Now, let's take a look at the automatic. Now, if Brian were here, he'd probably give me a little smack on the back of the head because I keep referring to this as an auto. I did it in the intro and I did it just there as we were making the segue over here. This will actually be able to be classified legally as an assisted opener. And I'll tell you why in just a couple of seconds here. So what you actually have is a dual action. You can choose to flick it like all of your other Winterblade knives. You can slow roll it, all that kind of good stuff because of the blade window. Or you can use that actuation switch and it will pop it out for you. This is not spring loaded. I need you to be fully on board with this. Once again, this is driven by magnets. The opposing magnetized force is what's propelling the blade out. Two powerful neodymium magnets are what's kicking the blade out from the frame. And they're also what's holding the blade into the frame as the detent. Now, the way Brian explains this is the M-Fire has a bias toward closure, meaning it's going to hold the blade closed more strongly then it pushes the blade open. So he says under U.S. law, because of that, it could be classified as an assisted opener. You are using a lever or a button or switch of some sort to assist you in opening the knife. So bingo. And you can manually flick it and it will continue to assist. So it gives you an even stronger opening. Now here's the interesting part. You can very easily remove both of the magnets inside of this frame yourself and convert it to a non-magnetic, completely manual knife. So if you prefer the idea of the factor and you want this shape or form factor, you could have the exact same operation. This would just be your lock now. It wouldn't be a way to deploy the blade. Just like this. The sizes on this, not really too much different than your factor. It's a little bit more slender and a tiny bit longer. Your overall length is 7 inches with a 2 3/4 inch blade length. And it weighs only 4.2 ounces. My example here has black DLC titanium on the front and carbon fiber for the backside. These will all have the Vanax Super Clean blades, and you'll have a choice of the finishes. You can have the stonewash, as you would have here, or the beautiful, and I mean beautiful, gloss black DLC. And I'm going to tell you right now, DLC is the way to go. That all black stealth look is incredible. Now, you've had a chance to see all 3 of the upcoming knives, but I want to give you a quick comparison here against the Mirage, because I told you about that in the preview, or in the intro. For those who don't remember the Mirage was the very first assisted magnetic opener ever made. And Brian decided to not make it super strong. So when you go to use the switch, if you have it pretty parallel or pointed down a little bit, you could sometimes get it to go all the way open. Of course, right now, as I'm saying that, it won't. But it is simply just assisting you a little bit to get that blade open. I learned over time, actually didn't even take a lot of time, I learned very quickly how it was that I wanted to open it and close it. I have used this knife and carried this knife extensively. By the way, the edge on there is still doing pretty damn good 2 years later. This, yeah, I like more. Number one, I really like the factor blade shape to it. And I love the fact that I can get it to fire, even vertically. I can get this to fire completely just by using the switch. Yeah, I dig that. And the fact that it's a dual action, the times that I just want to flick it open, I certainly can. Still a good knife. This one's better. That's just the way to put it. This is a little bit lighter, a little bit more slender, and a little bit sleeker. This I still like more. The only thing is you cannot unlock it and then, well, actually, I guess you can. But you really got to give it a good slam to get it to go closed. Oh, crap. Now that I'm able to do that, that's probably how I'm always going to do it. Yeah, I think out of the 3 new models, I think this is my favorite. And it may be because it's such a departure from what Winterblade has offered in the past. It's also still very close to the size and form factor of the original Factor, which I really, really, really like. Place your bets on how long it takes me to cut myself doing that stupid stuff. I just like this a lot. And I've been carrying this ever since it arrived, and it carries every bit as good as this. It's a little bit thicker, but it doesn't really take up any additional room in the pocket. It's a little tiny bit heavier, but nothing that bothers me at all. And I really, really, really like the milling in the body on the front scale here. Nice texture. Really helps lock you into it really, really well. Nice grippy texture. Okay, that's it for this video. You've had a chance to see all 3. And as I said, each individual knife will be getting their own full detailed reviews coming up soon. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on those videos.